All right, so we're actually gonna go ahead and move to number, or no, we're ready for number 4, aren't we? We are ready for number 4. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw my basic picture for problem number 4. Remember, we're graphing these on our graph paper. And the picture that I've given you is this triangle. And again, you do not have to do this, but if you want to label the points on the original, you can. You don't have to. So we got a triangle, we got a little semicircle, and then we have this trapezoid-like thing. All right, is everybody good with, this is our g of x. This is our base picture. Who can tell me what this is going to look like? Does anybody have any idea? This is a new thing for us. Does anyone have any idea what I'm going to do? This guy right here, do you remember that g of x is the same as y? So this is like 2 times the y. This is going to multiply the height of the picture by 2. So whatever number is multiplied, not added, we already talked about added. When you multiply, that's going to change your height's going to stretch it. So if I look at this little triangle over here to the side, how tall was it originally? 2? Now it's going to get doubled, so it's going to be 4. So I'm going to go over 1 and now up 4 to build that triangle. So he's going to look like this. These points aren't going to change because their y is 0. When I multiply by 2, it doesn't change. Those stay the same. The picture gets twice as tall. So my little semicircle, it was originally up 1. Now it's going to be up 2. So it's more like an oval now. And then my trapezoid originally was down 1, so like this was 1. That gets doubled, so now it's going to be 2. So I just drew my triangle twice as tall, my semicircle twice as tall, and my trapezoid twice as tall. What does a number multiplied out in front, what does that change? That changes your height. So this number multiplies the height. No matter what it is, it multiplies the height. We talked about this yesterday. Who remembers what a negative out in front does? That negative is out in front. Who remembers what that does? Yeah. Upside down, right. So this negative is going to make me go upside down. Now, what is the 1/2 going to do? It's going to make the height half as much now. So here we go. Be careful. We got 2 things going on. The original triangle is pointed up, and it was 2 units tall. right? Now what am I doing to it? I'm flipping it over so it's going to be pointed down, and I'm timesing the height by a half, so it's only going to be 1 unit tall now. Does that make sense to you? It's going to be half as tall. So now my triangle looks like this. He's pointing down because I flipped over, and I shrank him by a half. How about the semicircle? What's going to happen to it? It's going to go over, upside down. And how tall is it going to be? 0.5. It's going to be a half. Yep, it's going to be 0.5. That's hard on your graph paper, I know, because your grid's not very big, but it's only a half. Why is it a half? Because originally it was 1, and we times it by a half. Okay, now look at your trapezoid thing. He's originally underneath, so now he's going to be above. How tall is he originally? How tall? 1. So now he's going to be 0.5. So this was the point. Oh, wait a minute. That thing was too wide. There we go. Sorry about that. That guy was too wide. That semicircle was too wide. He's only a half down, but he's too wide. Okay, so here's my semicircle. Now, here's my trapezoid. Here's 1. So he's flipped up, and he's a half tall. So originally, this was the 0.3 -1. Now it's the 0.3 1/2, and 4 1/2, and 5 0 stays the same. Okay with that? Okay, what's next? Oh my, okay. Do you see a difference with problem C? What is the difference? The 1/2 is inside. Okay, so let's refresh our memories. When the number is outside, when we're multiplying outside, it impacts the height. When we are multiplying inside, it impacts the width. So this number changes how tall I am. This number changes how wide I am. Okay, now I want you to think about something for a minute. Do you remember the difference between that and that? Do you remember the difference there? What's the difference? This moves me up 3, and this moves me left 3. So remember, when it was inside the parentheses, it was kind of opposite of what you thought it would be, right? Always? Well, it's still that way. When it's inside the parentheses, it's opposite of what you think. So this isn't x times a half. This is actually x divided by a half. This number right here divides the width. It doesn't times the width, it divides the width. It does the opposite because it's inside the parentheses. So what does that look like? Well, go back to the original picture. how wide was this triangle? 2. Now it's going to be 2 divided by a half. This number divides the width. So that triangle was too wide originally. So the new width is going to be 2 divided by a half. Well, what's 2 divided by a half? 2 times 2 over 1, which is 4. So when you look up there and you see that half, you think you're going to get skinnier, don't you? It's the opposite. You actually get fatter, wider. So the triangle is still the same height, but now it's 4 times, or 4 long, it's 4 wide. So this is tricky. We're gonna have to practice. Now, back to my original semicircle. How wide is he? 2. How high is he? 1. Now, I haven't changed the height, but now my width, instead of being 2, my width is now going to be 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm still only up 1. There we go. So originally I was at 2, 0. Now I'm at 4, 0. If you run out of room on your grid, just extend it. Because how wide is my original trapezoid? 3? Look, when you count, it's 1, 2, 3, right? It's 3 wide. Well, because of this, it's now going to be 6 wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's going to end over here. How deep is it? How tall is it? 1. So each step of the trapezoid was 1 before. This was 1 step and 1 step and 1 step. Now they're all 2. So this is 2 steps, 2 steps, 2 steps. And there's a picture of it. There's a lot to remember, right? I totally understand. There's a lot to remember. And there's going to be more. We have one more thing after today to talk about. Okay? We are at that one? All right. Leave my original up there. And now I'm going to do this one. All right, you guys, now listen. Two numbers in that problem. 2 numbers. What are those numbers going to do? Actually, you know what? I'm going to change this. I'm going to make that a 4. Make that a 4. It'll be easier for you. All right. What does this guy do?
Multiply.
So he multiplies the height. So that means my triangle is actually going to be 4 tall. My semicircle is going to be 2 tall. And my trapezoid is going to be 2 tall. Everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What does this number do? Divides the width. Okay, now wait a second. How wide is the original triangle? 2. Divided by 4, he's now going to be a half. I divide by this number. So I'm dividing by 4. So I have a triangle that's going to be 4 tall, but only a half wide. Oh my goodness. He is a skinny mini. He's 4 tall and only a half wide. This number times the height. So the height was 2, the original height was 2. So we times it by 2, that makes it 4. The original width was 2, but we're dividing it by 4, which makes it a half. What about this guy? Well, you already told me it's gonna be too tall. How wide is it gonna be? A half? Because it's 2 right now. So it's gonna be a half. So now I got, it's gonna be a half, but 2, oh my goodness, so it's, I'm gonna try to make that somewhat circular. Looks like that. The things we did yesterday didn't change our shape. Yesterday we were flipping things and adding and subtracting, moving them around. Today we're actually changing the shape. We're stretching and shrinking. Okay, how about our trapezoid? He's gonna be down 2. How wide is he gonna be? How wide is he right now? 3 divided by 4. He's gonna be 3/4 wide. So this is a half, this is 1, this is 1 1/2, 2, and so on. I need to go over 3/4. That's gonna put me right there. Oh my goodness gracious. This is a very strange looking picture. He's 3/4 wide, so he's a half and another 1/4. And down 2. I know it's hard, you guys. I know it is, but we gotta deal with it. We gotta deal with it. There's more drafting paper. Yeah, I always do. It's back here. You don't have to ask me for it. Just come back and get it. It's on this shelf right here. Excuse me. Sure. Right here on this shelf. Pile right there. Okay? All right, let's try the next one and see if you can make any progress on your own. Before you start drafting, can you write down what does that do and what does that do? Before we actually start graphing it, can you write down what those 2 changes are? What do you think? Anybody remember what this guy does? Sideways, that's a sideways flip. So this guy's gonna be sideways. Now, what does that mean in terms of your picture? It means the triangle will now be on the right, and the semicircle and trapezoid will be on the left. Okay, we can do that. What does that 2 do? Divides the width. Okay, you got this, people. You told me that the triangle was moving over. How wide is the original triangle? 2. We're going to divide that by 2, So now I'm going to draw my triangle over here on this side, but now it can only be one wide. Oops, wrong side, this side, we flipped it, right? So my triangle's on that side and it's one wide. It's still up two, but it's one wide. Okay? Okay, let me show everybody one more time. Because I got stuff I want to keep. Okay, so right here, see this paper sticking out right here? All we do is looking up here. If you need more graph paper, this is where you come get it, all right? Leave that stuff alone. Come up here and get it from out of here if you need it. Okay. All right, now back to the issue. Now I'm going to draw my circle, my semicircle. Where am I going to draw it? On the left, and it's too wide in the original picture, but you told me I'm going to make it half as wide, so it's going to look like that. It's only going to be one wide. It's still going up one, but it's only going one across. And then finally my trapezoid. It's moving over here, because we did sideways foot. And how wide is it? 3. So now it's gonna be 1.5. So it's over here and it's gonna be 1.5. It still goes down 1, so I'm just gonna sketch in my trapezoid shape, and I am finished. All right, you feel like you got that under control? How about F? No numbers in F. What is happening here?
It's sideways and
It's going sideways and upside down. Now, is any height or width changing? Nope. So this triangle, let's see if we can do this all at once, it might be too much. This triangle is going to the left, or to the right, it's going to the right, and it's going upside down. So it's staying the same exact size, but it's switching sides and switching direction. How does that look? Does that seem okay? Now, what about the semicircle? Same thing. So he's coming over here and going down. Same size, don't change any height or width. It's 2 across, 1 up, or in this case, 2 across and 1 down, because I flipped it. And then finally the trapezoid. He's coming over here, but going upside down, so now he'll be above. And there we go. So we did 2 things at once there. Remember, you can do it in 2 steps if you want. Now, we're not going to graph G because that picture is huge, but let's talk about what's going on there. What would the 3 out in front do? Multiply the height. So it's going to be 3 times as tall. Okay. What about the 1/3? What does the 1/3 do? Divide the width. And dividing by 1/3 is actually timesing by 3, so that thing would just be gigantic. So we're not going to do it, but that's what would happen. We are going to do H. There is a lot going on in H. tell me what's happening. What does this do? Multiply the height. So my picture is gonna be, everything's gonna be twice as tall. Triangle will be 4, the other things will be 2. All right, what does this do? Right 1, that's a blast from the past, right 1. And then up 2, yep. Wow. Okay. You know I'm old and feeble. Can't handle too much at once, so I am gonna do this in stages. You can do it however you want, but we have to end up with the same picture. I'm gonna follow my PEMDAS rules. PEMDAS. I'm gonna start right here in the parentheses. So the first thing I'm gonna do is move everything right 1. So I am gonna use my black marker and I'm gonna move everything right 1. So my triangle will actually start here now. I'm moving this right 1, so it's going to start here. And then I'll just tack on my semicircle, and I'll tack on my trapezoid. So I just built it a shape at a time, just build it out. And that is this part. What do you think about that? Would you agree with that? Red one. Now I'm going to do times 2. So what that's going to do is take everything I've already done and make it twice as tall. So instead of this being up here at 2, it's now going to be at 4. I'll erase this. You don't have to. I'm going to erase it. There's my triangle. My semicircle is going to go up to 2. And my trapezoid is going to come down to negative. Alright, so you catch up. I may have done something too fast there. Take a look at it and see. Are you still with me? Okay. Now I'm going to take my blue marker and I'm going to move everything up 2. So I'm going to move everything up 2. So this is going to be like my new axis. So my triangle is going to start here, up 2, up 2, up 2. There's my triangle. How does that look to everybody? Yours looks better because you have graph paper, but. And then this guy. And then when I bring this down, he's actually going to hit the axis because he's too deep. So the blue thing is the final answer to the problem. All right, let's pause there for a second. Who has a question? So far we know 6 things. We know how to deal with the negative inside and the negative outside, right? We know how to deal with the add or subtract inside and add or subtract outside. And we know how to deal with the times outside or the times inside. We have one more thing to learn. And then we'll take a quiz over all this someday soon. All right, the last thing we have to learn is in number 5. We're going to talk about absolute value. All right, last chance. Any question about this last problem we just did? All right, so now we're gonna talk about absolute value. And we're gonna use that same picture right there. And just like everything else we do, we have to pay attention to where the absolute value is. Here, it's outside the problem. It's surrounding the problem. I call this transformation bottoms up. And here's why. When you take the absolute value of something, what happens to it? It becomes positive. If it's already positive, this is positive. Positive means you're above the x-axis. This is already positive. So when I take it to the absolute value, nothing changes. This is positive. Nothing changes. But this guy is negative, and he becomes positive. So when you have the absolute value of the whole problem, the bottom of the picture comes up. Everything else stays the same, but the bottom has to come up. So the absolute value here, nothing changes size-wise, everything stays the same. So there's my triangle, there's my semicircle, and now here is my trapezoid. When you take the absolute value of the whole picture, of the whole thing, absolute value, anything below the x-axis comes up. That's the only change. The bottom comes up. Everything else stays the same. Got it? Okay. Now, what happens when you take the absolute value of just x? Do you see the difference between the two problems? Okay. This is different. When you take the absolute value of x, you draw the right side of the picture exactly as it is. So just redraw the right side of the picture, okay? Then mirror that onto the left. So take whatever you had on the right and mirror it on the left. That's how we take the how we graph the absolute value of x. Draw the right side, whatever you got on the right side, draw it. And then, whatever you drew, mirror it over on the other side. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, wait, Mrs. Ford, what happened to the triangle? It's gone. The left side disappears. And it becomes the right side. Okay?
Well, why do we just get rid of like the triangle?
Because this says that the x values, whether they're positive or negative, are going to have the same output. So if you look at your original picture, if you put in positive 1, you get 1. But if you put in negative 1, you get 2. Well, that can't happen. The output has to be the same. So whatever the positive outputs were are going to be the same as the negative outputs because we absolute value it. Okay. All right. Let's try C. I'm erasing all this, but you've written down your rules, so you know what to do. We are going to sketch the absolute value of g of x plus 1. Here we go. What do we do here? It's the absolute value of the whole thing. What do we do? Bottom comes up. So I'm gonna write bottoms up. And then what are we gonna do? Up 1. Okay. Now remember, this is bottoms up, so the top part is gonna stay the same. All of this is the same. That's already above my arm. The only thing I have to do is move that up. So up that comes. Okay, now we're gonna pick the whole shebang up 1. So you don't need to draw this line in, you absolutely do not need to draw that line in, but you can if you want. You're gonna pick everything up 1 space. So we lifted the triangle, lifted the semicircle, lifted the trapezoid. Everything lifted up 1. One thing I haven't mentioned, order on these things can be a little tricky, but you're probably always going to be okay if you remember this is last. Any vertical movement is going to be last. So that's why I did my absolute value first and then picked it up 1. All right, who's got a plan on this one? What's that do? Upside down, very good. What's this? Bottoms up, yep. All right, so let's do our bottoms up again. So triangle stays put. Semicircle stays put. Trapezoid comes up. So there's bottoms up. Now what am I going to do? Upside down it. So now, here, the bottom's up, everything's on top. But when I turn that upside down, then everything will be on the bottom, which is perfectly okay. That's what the problem said to do. So my answer is the pink. Okay? Are you ready to try one? Would anyone, I know this one's kind of hard actually. Maybe not for you. Does anybody feel like you can grasp this one? Rex, you're awesome. Here she comes. She's going to sketch this one, and let's give her a head start. What changes are we making in this problem in letter D? Or no, we're in E. Letter E. What changes are we making? It's going to go down 2 for sure. That's going to be my last thing. What am I going to have before that? Draw the right and mirror it over on the left, right? So we're gonna draw the right side of the picture and mirror it over on the left. What? No. Hold on, ready to go. Okay, a few more minutes. Do you need something? Oh, wow. She is, she's doing it all at once. Wow, awesome. Nice job, Celeste.
Good job, sir.
So she's dropped it down too. So this is her new axis right here. So she dropped it down. So her original was the semicircle and the trapezoid on both sides. And then she dropped everything down too. Wow, that's awesome. Good job. Anybody have a question about that? Well, does anybody feel like you can do F? Anybody want to tackle F? Who will do F for us? Oh, come on. Well, what are the changes that are being made in F? What does this do? Multiplies the height. So what that means is everything I draw is going to be twice as tall. Okay? What does this mean? Draw, right, and mirror, right? So when I draw my right side, you guys, will my semicircle go all the way up to 2? And my trapezoid will go all the way down to 2? So far, so good? Mary, is that all right? And then I'm gonna just mirror that over here to this side. So I'm gonna have exactly the same thing over here. You guys could have done that. That was easier than Sures's problem. Okay. Anybody want to try this one? Man, my boards need washed. Alright. What is this? What's this right here? What happens right here? Bottoms up. And then I'm gonna make it multiply the height by 2. Now remember, bottoms up doesn't change anything except what's on top. So this triangle isn't gonna change. He's just gonna become 2 times as tall. So now he's 4 tall. So there's my triangle. The semicircle isn't gonna change, except he's gonna become twice as tall. Now what about the trapezoid though? The trapezoid is going to come up gonna be twice as tall. Are you okay with that? Naz, you all right with that? Okay, last one. What do we do here? What does that negative do? Upside down, yeah. When you say flip it, make sure you know which direction. This one's going upside down. A negative inside goes sideways. What's this guy? Draw right. And mirror it on the left, right? So I'm going to draw the right side of the picture, but I'm going to draw it upside down. So the right side of the picture, upside down, will look like this. Is that okay? No, that's not okay. This is okay. Is that better? Sorry about that. Right side upside down. Now what? Same thing on the other side. Exactly the same thing on the other side. And there you go. Okay. All right. So next time we have class, is that tomorrow? Yeah. We'll do a practice quiz. But I want to practice with you right now one problem. So, we'll do a real easy shape. We'll do a tall triangle and a short triangle. Right? So this is our shape. This is the shape we're going to use. That one's kind of a hard shape. We're going to use this one. Okay? Can you all, right now, use one of your grids, can you sketch this? Can you sketch that right now? Using this shape, can you do that? Take a second to do it. This is what you'll have to do on your quiz. And actually on your quiz, you'll have to tell me what changes you're gonna make too. So I've been writing it above here, but you're gonna have answer blanks to write it in. So what are the changes? What's this change? Bottoms up. Okay. So bottoms up. Now, if you don't wanna use that vocabulary, it's okay. But you have to explain somehow with your words that you're bringing the bottom part of the picture up. Okay? And what else are we gonna do?
Okay.
One. Okay, go ahead and sketch it. Let's see if you can sketch it. that what you had on your paper?
Mhm.
Perfect. One more, we use the same shape. Same shape, here's our new equation, write down the changes first. So what are these changes going to be?
Who's gonna carry it?
On the quiz, I'm gonna stick to just 2 changes. We've done problems where we had 3. So what are the changes here? What's happening here? It'll be upside down. And it's going to be left one. Would everybody agree with that? Okay. So go ahead and draw it. I go back to the original picture. How does that red version look to you? Look okay? All right, like I said, tomorrow we'll do a practice quiz, and that quiz will be the next day after that. Okay? 1-6 homework is due on Thursday.